working.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, perfect. Little test. Test for the podcast. Brand new Zoom. Zoom.
I'll talk. So welcome to All Killa No Filla podcast.
Yeah. Who are we doing? What's his chops?
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 65, part 1 of All Killa No Filla podcast with me, Rachel Fairburn and Kiri Pritchard-McLean. Just before we start, we'll do our usual disclaimer. This isn't hero worship. We do this podcast because of mutual interest in serial killers. And as long as we are doing this podcast, it stops us from writing them in prison. Why is it getting longer?
It is, yeah. It feels like it's now a third of the podcast.
I'm really labouring that, aren't I? It's taking fucking ages.
Yeah, this is a really big one.
Mm-hmm.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
I think this is going to go out about Christmas.
Christmas Day, I think. Or Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, probably.
Yeah.
Whack it out Christmas Eve.
There'll be basically loads of stuff for you to distract from your racist family who voted for the Tories. If anyone messages me saying, not everyone who voted Conservative is racist, absolutely fuck off. I've got zero time for you.
The thing is, I mean, what's happening now? President Trump's been impeached.
This is going to age really badly.
Yeah, I know.
He's at the first stage of impeachment. He's got to get it past the Senate.
Nothing's going to happen.
No. Anyway, speaking of sexual predators, we're talking about...
I thought you were going to introduce me then.
My co-host, Rachel Fairburn. I don't know why I did it as Tony Blackburn. Nothing proved.
The man's fine.
The man's fine.
Clean as a whistle.
Oh, God. Yeah, so we're doing I'd say the serial killer with the most amount of aliases.
Absolutely. And I think as well, I think this is terrifying.
Yep.
It's absolutely, hands down. I mean, all these serial killers and murderers we talk about are awful. But there's something about this that has got the edge on it. In fact, makes me go a bit goosey in a creepy way.
Yes, there's a brilliant podcast I can recommend. It's very rare I'll be that generous to recommend anything normally, but it's called Man in the Window.
It's
and it's by
good.
an LA Times investigative journalist who's done this huge thing on it's the Golden State Killer. And I was listening to it to keep me awake because it was so frightening. I fall asleep behind the wheel, but it was so frightening I was awake still. Got to the house at 3 o'clock in the morning, like phoned my partner, like incessantly till he answered, and he was like, "What's wrong? You okay?" I was like, "No, are you awake?" And he's like, "Yeah, I am now because you're phoning me." And I was like, "Can you come and get me from the car?" And you know, my house in Manchester's like, it's
steps.
It's 3 large paces.
Yeah.
Until you're in the house, and I couldn't get out of the car. I was too frightened.
Well, I was listening to it on your recommendation, and it is excellent. And I was listening to it in my house, and in the afternoon, and someone knocked at the door, and I was like, right, this is it. And I got a genuine sort of like, I feel a bit nervous about answering the door. It's just the postman. He's got a really fucking annoying habit, my postman, of knocking on 2 doors at once. Because the doors are so close
if you
together.
open the same time, you have to wait for him to deal with the next door.
It's just and it's fine, I get it, it's his job, but it just knocks really loud, and it echoes through both flats.
Right.
So you're just like, for fuck's sake, mate, just knock on one. But you can't say that, can you?
No. And it's a difficult time of year for our brave boys in red.
I did think that. I thought, you know what, he's fucking had enough, this lad. He's sick of it.
There's a guy on our street who's housebound, so he signs for all the parcels.
Oh, my neighbour spoke to me the other week, and she said, just wondering, we have a WhatsApp group for a few of the houses on here, and I thought, would you like to join it? I went, absolutely not, thank you very much. I thought, look after your own fucking parcels. Not fucking Father Christmas. I'm not doing it.
They'll have noticed that you're in the day.
That's exactly what I thought. And I was like, I'm not getting involved in this. Because my boyfriend's actually in a house WhatsApp group. And it's getting beyond a joke now.
Really?
Yeah. I said, you've made a rod for your own back. The other day, their shower had broken, the boiler had broken. Oh, we've not had a boiler for a week, can we use your shower? He let them. I just said, absolutely not.
Why?
It's so fucking intrusive. Go to the gym. Or get your boiler fixed from the landlord. Like,
Yeah, but it is really hard to get a boiler fixed this time of year.
I understand that, but I found it's not my flat, I don't give a shit. But the problem is, he asked me for my opinion on it, and I said, I wouldn't. I said, I'm just a bit funny about that. I think it's a bit overstepping a bit of a sort of personal boundary. I said, I'd feel a bit strange about it, but you do what you want. And then he sort of regretted it, and then moaned about it, and I'm like, don't ask for my opinion.
I just think that, like, it would take a lot for me to go, I'm so sorry, can I have a shower? The boiler's still not fixed. It would take an awful lot. Like, you know, would be like, I don't want to be in his fucking shower. Might be a camera in there. Like, of course, I don't want to shower in someone else's house.
But I don't know, I just think it kind of...
Unless it was, like, day one, they're like, can I pop over for a shower?
But the thing is, you've done that once, what's it going to be again? Get a parcel, fine. Can you sign for this? Absolutely. No. Get out. Sniffing it. But I don't trust people. That's the thing. I wouldn't trust someone who lived in the same sort of building as me to...
Oh, I would be using the most expensive conditioner while I was in there.
Well, I noticed I have a shampoo there and it had been moved. And I thought, but one of those cunts has used it.
Anyway.
I hope they don't listen to this. It's highly embarrassing, isn't it?
No, or if anything, it means you won't get the request again.
Yes, we must get on.
He has the most amount of aliases because we were talking about this earlier that his...
we must say it's the Golden State Killer.
The Golden State Killer. He has sort of like 3 parts to his career as a criminal. One is as a burglar and hot prowler. Not as in sexy, as in someone who does it when they're in the house.
Not like the hot Fallon.
Yeah. That looks like my dog.
It does.
And then one is as a rapist and one is as a murderer.
Yeah.
So it's an escalation over years.
Then he ends up combining
all of
everything.
Them. So some of his names include, he's probably most famous as the Golden State Killer or the East Area Rapist.
Yep.
And they used to abbreviate that because there was so much information on him in the files that they used to just write ear. Oof. So like the ears struck again. Like some kid with glue ear.
Me?
Yeah. She can't go swimming.
Hey, it was a traumatic time in my life. That's why I'm a bad swimmer. How do you say it?
Visalia Ransacker. Also,
East Bay rapist.
First time I found out that Ransacker is not Ramsacker.
Oh, you thought it was Ramsacker?
Yeah. Because there's like Ransacker. No, Ramsacker.
Oh, wow. Always learning.
Yeah.
Diamond Knot Killer.
Mm-hmm.
And the original Night Stalker.
Also, the Creek Killer I found yesterday was also referred to as well. So, a lot of names for him.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I could genuinely really recommend this Man in the Window thing, although I think there is a slight, ethical thing. It's brilliant, the way it's investigated. Kill me.
You sound like one of his phone calls.
Sorry, I was yawning. They advertise on it fair. You know, we've all got to make a living.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
But for home security. So it's like, you want your family to be safe. In between telling people about one of the most horrific, most prolific, like, rapists and serial killers there is. And I thought it was like, this is really not okay.
Well, at first, I went through 2 things with that. I thought, oh, that's canny. I thought, that's pretty... that's a good thing to advertise. And then I was like... oh, actually, people are going to be frightened, and it's kind of fueling the fire a little bit.
I thought it was really out of order.
It's a weird one.
I don't know what would be our equivalent.
What would we?
Of us selling that's like really out of order.
Domestos. Yeah, if you were like, if you like to have your house really clean.
But it's more just like they really ramp up the fear.
Yeah.
So you're scared, and then go, do you want to get rid of that? You can do this.
Yeah, instead of just going, this is sponsored by such and such home security, blah, blah, blah.
But it's really sort of like, So,
basically, they may as well say, someone's getting in your house.
Yeah. Kiss your kids goodnight, it might be the last one. So he's part of a military family.
Yeah.
So he jumped all over the place. The family were all over America, Washington, New York. He was over in Germany. And that's a common ththing. So as a result, he was quite... sort of like didn't have loads of friends and was a bit sort of isolated. So because I think it's quite a hard thing to make friends and then move all the time
constantly, and not knowing sometimes when you're going to move and thinking, oh, I'm settled here, but in like a year we might not be here, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. He was born November the 8th, 1945, in Bath, New York City, or Bath, depending on where you're from. His dad had the same name as him, Joseph James DeAngelo.
DeAngelo, yeah.
For some reason, you know, sometimes when you can't, I just cannot get his name in my head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't know why that is. It's just, I don't know, I've Darren Browned myself about his name. His mum was called Kathleen, and he had 2 younger sisters.
Kathleen DeGroat DeAngelo, and then she remarried and was a Bosanko? Bosanko.
Bosanko.
Yeah.
He had 2 younger sisters, Connie and Rebecca, and his younger brother was called John. Good solid names there, thank you very much.
Constance is actually what Connie is.
Oh, is it? Constance?
Yeah, I like that name.
Yeah, Constance is a nice name. His dad he was an airman in World War II, and when they split up, he moved to South Korea, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he's probably in the military in South Korea at the time.
He was.
And
then basically when he was like ready to come back, his wife was like, I've got another boyfriend, and he's like, right, I've got another girlfriend. They got divorced.
So his mum started seeing, she was sort of having an affair with a chap that also had a family, and all a bit messy, I guess. She used to work at Denny's as a waitress. Mm-hmm. Denny's is, well, obviously, I mean, I've been to a Denny's. It's just like a cafe type thing.
Right. Like a TGI's?
Like a reasonable, like a normally priced TGI's. Like it's normally priced in America, but like TGI's here for some reason is priced as if you're on holiday. In, you know, it's airport prices.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
TGI's, I think. So TGI Fridays, everyone must know what it is. Thank God it's Friday. It's absolutely fine. If you've got a hangover though, like Frankie and Benny's, sometimes I'm a bit like, oh, let's go and have some reheated food. Thank you very much. Yeah.
They are usually in airports,
or on a car park. On an industrial estate that you can also go to Nando's or the cinema.
Yeah. Are you thinking about the one in Stockport or Ashton? Sorry,
I was thinking about the one in Ashton. Yeah.
That's where I went to see that Frankenstein thing that we talk about.
Oh, is that where you went to see it there?
Yeah. His father was a decorated soldier and had received the Purple Heart for bravery as well. Ooh. And his uncle and his dad both had injuries from being in the war, so he's big like military influence on the family. Now apparently the household was like very abusive. Mm-hmm. So there was definitely physical abuse from Joseph the father towards Kathleen the mother. Also, she was very abusive to the kids, as in she would sort of smack them and things. And yeah, she apparently they would, like, one of the girls would wear 2 pairs of trousers so it didn't hurt as much when she hit her. So there was definitely like violence going on, but I don't know how unusual that was. And he was sort of left 50s. To
bring the younger kids up as well in a way, because the mum was always either at work or out. Or
he'd get them up for school. Yeah. He'd put the wash load on. He'd
do the sandwiches.
No, there's a thing that's come out about his childhood that might explain like a traumatic event. So his sister Constance was 7 years old. And now this only came out when she was dying of cancer. She kind of confessed this to her son. It was her son Jesse. So she was 7 years old and she was knocking around on on the airbase in this warehouse. And 2 airmen came in and raped her. And Joseph saw this. And then they went and told... He was like 9 or 10 at the time. They went and told the parents. The parents were like, don't tell anyone about this. And that's how it was dealt with. And Jesse, Constance's son, says very eloquently, maybe that was the start of Joe going wacko. It's just quite...
to the point.
Cash, isn't it? And then the mum died recently in 2010. She was 87 years old, and on her gravestone they referred to her as Ramblin' Rose.
Which sounds like a compliment yet an insult at the same time.
Yeah. Or Rambling a cocktail.
Rose. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, can we have 2 Rambling Roses,
Do you know
please?
what I imagine it? I've just got an imaginary taste of a Rambling Rose. I bet it tastes like Turkish Delight.
Yes, it would. And there'd be a petal on the top.
Yeah.
That you get stuck to your top lip.
Keep your filthy babies. It's all about the Rambling Rose now. I'll have 2 of them,
Merry Christmas.
I'd love to go to a bar and go, excuse me, can I have 2 filthy babies, please? And just see, like, the really cool ones where they just...
Yeah.
You know, I like cocktails, but sometimes I'm just like, just fucking get on with it. I find it quite embarrassing, the whole, like, showmanship of it sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Well, when they, like, throw it around and stuff.
Yeah, I'm like... And you're meant to go, ooh.
Yeah, I just don't make eye contact. Our friend Kate McCabe is it a mixologist? She's one in New York. So whenever we go to her house, she makes amazing cocktails.
Oh, she good, yeah.
But yeah, none of that bullshit.
None of the
throwing it around. She's just really good.
nonsense.
Yeah. So this is all. He grows up in Rancho Cordova, and there's, like we say, he sort of brings up the family. There's no one around. He sort of adopts himself into another family. This girl called Judy. They're army kids as well. There's 9 of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's a really big social house.
That's a lot of people to move around, isn't it?
It really is. Like that's
the Beverly
2 cars.
Hillbillies.
Like, you'd have to have a minibus. So he starts hanging out with the brothers in school and then starts coming home and knocking around. And they'd, like, fix cars together and go out, like, hunting and, you know, fishing and things. And the family were really, like, warm. The mum and dad were together. They loved each other loads. And, like, even though the dad was really busy, he'd make a big effort to spend time with the kids. So it was, like, a real sort of, like, family household. And then he started calling them Mom and Pop. And they, like, really, like, loved him back. Like, his class photo was on the mantelpiece with the other kids once.
Oh, it's actually quite sad, this, isn't it?
It is sad, yeah. Now, it all is quite innocent, and then Judy remembers this occasion that she'd kind of, like, from her childhood, that when everything came out, she was like, that was Joe. She's asleep, and she had this weird feeling that she was being watched, and then she sort of opens her eyes, and there's a figure at the window, and she can see that, like, from the lights of the street, he's, like, lit from behind, and just staring at her sleeping. It's so creepy. And she was too scared to move, and then something happened, like a dog barked or something, and it startled them off. And then the next day, she's saying, oh, there's a man at my window last night. And the dad and the brothers were like, are you sure you weren't dreaming? She was like, no, there was someone there, I'm sure. And then they went round to the side of the house where her window was, and there was footprints at her window, which is, like, a common theme of, like, finding footprints in flower beds.
Oh, it's really creepy, that, isn't it?
It's really creepy.
Yeah.
Really creepy.
Ugh.
So he starts in Folsom High School. Is that anything to do with Folsom Prison? There's probably more than one Folsom, isn't
Yeah,
there?
I mean, I don't
Just got excited about Johnny Cash.
Yeah, there's not much information on his school life. There's not even that sneaky yearbook photo
No.
that usually comes out.
Yeah, he's quite stocky as a guy, but weirdly he didn't play football.
He played baseball.
Yeah, even though he had sort of the physique for it. And I guess all we know is that he used to hang around with that other military family in school.
It just sounds quite unremarkable, apart from standing at a window like a weirdo.
He's referred to as reserved, but, like, his big thing is how determined he is. Like, really determined and driven. So he graduates in 1964.
Yep.
He gets a degree in criminal justice from Cal State Sacramento.
During this time, 1964, he joins the Navy, and he serves 22 months in Vietnam. He was a damage control man, which sounds cool, but it's just doing repairs.
Yeah, because damage control man is what I call myself after a night out when I'm going through my text. Time to employ damage control man.
You should really employ him before you have a night out.
Yeah.
That's what you should do.
Damage control man is the friend who takes the phone out of your hand on a night out.
Deletes the WhatsApp message.
Yeah.
Kiri's been typing a long time. So he got his degree. He got a degree in police science as well. He joined the police in Exeter and Auburn.
Yes, so he worked for 2 police departments, which is his police experience sort of, like, comes up in the crimes. They did suspect that this would be someone with a military or policing background, and of course he's got both. So
It made the paper, didn't it?
Hiring him made the paper, but I think maybe that's testament to the area. And then firing him also, because it's a big rural area in Auburn, not loads goes on, also makes the paper. So he gets into loads of trouble when he's working. He's always being bollocked. Like, he just does weird stuff, like he goes missing on shift. But
I mean, which is fine if you're skiving, if you work in an office, but not when you're a copper.
Not when you're a copper. Well, this is the thing, is the drive from Auburn to the Bay Area where these things were happening. They think he was going there to stalk his victims deliberately, like, out of his patch, because also knowing that the communication between police departments isn't brilliant. It's only 40 miles, and
in America that's nothing,
nothing, is it? they think he might have been committing the crimes on duty. And, like, once he got, like, a written warning for slipping away on duty. Another time, they were, like... There was a lot of prowling going on and, like, peeping Toms of, like... It's kind of, like, the era of, like, you know, late 60s, early 70s. They're, like, trying to... There's a burglar. Him and another police officer are trying to, like, sneak up on it. And then when they're getting close to the house... He just shines a light on the other policeman, so the burglar would be able to exactly see him. If he's got a gun, he'll be able to clearly shoot him. So he gets like a massive bollocking for like, you know, you could have killed him, and you've like that guy will have seen that beam of light and run off. Like it's just like a really bad thing to do. They don't really remember loads about him in this police force. The only thing that stands out particularly, other than him doing sort of weird stuff off the book, was he used to eat loads of. He'd be eating all the time. His nickname was Junk Food Joey. Yeah, it's brutal, isn't it? That's what drove him to kill him. It wasn't seeing his sister.
Which Joey? Junk Food Joey. Oh, yeah. Junk Food Joey.
I can see how his skin is from that nickname.
Junk Food Joey. Although maybe because he was quite young, eat what the fuck you want and you're fine, aren't you?
But he's known as being quite stocky. Although not fat, stocky. Like Will Duggan, like stocky.
Like stocky.
Yeah. So he gets fired because he's caught in Citrus Heights at a drugstore stealing dog repellent and a hammer. Now his nephew said, "Why did you do that?"
I think if you're stealing those two things, you should go straight to prison.
You're on a list.
There's something going on. Yeah. It's not like you're not stealing like tablets or whatever. You tooth whitening pen. They're a bit pricey. Not that I have. Dog repellent and a bloody
weird
hammer.
That, innit?
Yeah.
Very weird. It's basically a serial killer kit. So he gets laid off and he goes, no, I'm having a trial, and immediately starts proceedings to sue them. So his chief of police, he says, right, I'm going to sue you because you've been harassing me the whole time I've been in the police. So he starts this legal case against him, which doesn't amount to anything. But weird stuff happens when this legal claim happens. So one night, he wakes up, this police chief, and his 4-year-old daughter is like asleep on the bottom of the bed. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I couldn't sleep because that man kept shining a light through my window when I was in bed.
Ugh.
And he was like, what? And he's like, yeah, the man who kept shining a torch on me, I couldn't sleep. So the house is newly built, so it's all raked soil around the house. So he goes out, there's footprints up to her window, there's footprints at the door, like he's been trying the doors and the windows.
Fucking hell. What was he going to do?
So he says to the family, like, just watch, don't let anyone in the house. If you see anything, like, call the police. Basically kind of puts his family on high alert.
Oh, was this one where it was keep the soil raked around the thing?
Yeah, keep the soil raked, yeah. And they're like, okay, and the little girl is only 4, like, Melissa, her name is really obviously still distressed by it, and she was like, I remember I would be so scared. She basically wet the bed because she'd be too scared when she needed a wee to get up and go to the bathroom, in case she was worried that her dad would hear her, think she was an intruder and shoot her.
Fucking hell.
So on the occasions as well that she did like go, okay, I'm just gonna go, I've got to go, she'd be too scared to go back to bed, and she'd just like fall. Her mum would find her asleep by the toilet all the time.
Bloody hell.
Isn't that horrible?
It's really brutal, that, isn't it?
Yeah, really, really brutal. It's exactly the right word. So all this goes on. He leaves the Auburn police force. It's in the Auburn Journal. It's absolutely everywhere. The talk of the town. And when he's asked by his nephew, why did you do it? And he went, because I could. Which is like a serial killer motto, I guess.
Absolutely. Now, is it before? I think it's before this, though, isn't it? He meets somebody.
Yes. When does he leave? It was 1970. Yeah. He gets engaged. So, yeah.
So he meets a woman called Bonnie Jean Colwell. He's a bit old. He's about 5-6 years older than her.
Yeah, they're 18 when he meets. And, yeah, he's 5 years old. And he's already a Vietnam vet by then.
So he's a man with a lot of life experience.
Baggage.
Yeah, baggage. Yeah, I've got life experience. Oh, you mean baggage? Okay, lovely stuff. Do you know, I get a bit paranoid about. So I'm 5 years older. than my boyfriend. And I'm getting massively paranoid about it.
Why?
Even though you can't tell. I don't know. I'm just absolutely convinced that it's weird. But it's not weird.
No.
It's totally fine. But I'm doing my own editing about it.
I think it's always, like, mental age.
Yeah.
And, like, why women tend to go out with older boys when you're growing up is because
You're
sometimes
more
it
mature.
just chicks grow up a little bit more quickly.
I think in this circumstance...
It's because of all the sexual harassment we have to deal with. Really ages you.
I think in this circumstance, I mean, he must have seemed a lot older than her. And I think even, like, his sort of... what's the word? Demeanour. I think even his demeanour would have been...
Definitely. Because she's gorgeous. Like,
Yeah,
Bonnie,
she was
we've
great.
seen pictures of her. She's beautiful. And Joe is, like, not much to write home about.
Yeah, she actually says on the podcast, she's like, there's absolutely nothing about him that was memorable. White t-shirt, blonde hair.
Yeah. But she was saying it's how confident he was. Because what's that? It's very weird. She works in a science lab. I think in the college they both go to. They go to Sierra College. So she is out. She worked with like in a lab where they test on. It was like rats, birds, and rattlesnakes. I don't know what the fuck you're testing on a rattlesnake. Belts? I don't know.
Let's get the most irritated creature on the fucking planet.
Fucking wind it up.
But to give it its due, always gives you a warn.
Yeah,
that's why it's got its rattle. Give it some credit. I think it was Benjamin Franklin that wanted the rattlesnake to be the symbol of America.
Oh, really?
Because one of the reasons was it doesn't attack without warning.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But it is the symbol of, isn't it like a southern state?
I think so. He wanted it to be like instead of the Benjamin Franklin, instead of the eagle. He wanted it to be the rattlesnake. But I have no fucking idea what
they're testing on it.
Just leave them alone. Like,
yeah,
can you imagine
be.
just being out there and that?
Well,
you'd be like,
terrifying.
What?
Terrifying. So she's out one day with I think it's like a sparrow and a owl exercising them, and so one is on her head or like a starling or something. One sits on her head and she exercises them, and there's this
like
guy,
a cruel Mary Poppins. Or
yeah, but like, enjoy this. You're back in a cage in a minute. And there's this guy watching her, and it's Joe, and he comes over and starts chatting. And the main thing is she's bowled away
what
by.
She did with that starling.
What was that? Was that a Silence of the Lambs reference?
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, she's like, he's really confident, and like, we're gonna go out. Like, like sometimes it is just, as much of a feminist I am, sometimes it's just nice to be told what to do. Do you know what I mean? Like,
nice for somebody.
Not like, wear this. Leave that cum on your tits.
Your mum. Yeah.
That's a reference to someone.
It is.
Yeah.
Shall I tell? Fuck it, I'm going to say it. Right. Shall I tell the story? The horrible story?
I don't know if I know it.
Oh. The come on the tits.
Are we talking about the same comedian, in inverted commas? Yeah.
So there's... we use the term comedian. It's not really applicable in this circumstance. And if I'm being cruel, so be it. There's a comedian who... not very active, really, now. You wouldn't know who he is.
What if they listen to this?
I couldn't give a fuck. What, he's going to ring me up, get my number and say, excuse me, that's me you're talking about. And I'll go, actually, it's not. It was someone else. Anyway, the short story of this is I worked with somebody who knew this person, and he said, do you know this person? And I said, yeah, this was ages ago, it's years ago, because I just started out in comedy. And he said, do you know what he did one night? He used to have this girlfriend that he'd bring round, and he used to empty himself on her boobs.
That's worse.
I know. I was thinking of the worst.
That's worse.
Yeah, he used to ejaculate on her breasts. And then say to her...
Slither off on her breasts.
And then say to her, oh, you keep it there for the night out. And she's just like, let it all crust up. Like glue here.
But how long do you have to lie there still for it to do that? It's like nail varnish. As soon as you move, you're like, oh, I thought it was dry.
But you're going out for a night out. You want to wear something nice. You can't go out.
Yeah.
Oh, have you been on holiday? You got a bit of tan. It's just...
Oh, you're peeling.
It's just gross. I mean, each to their own. Do what you will. But, I mean, the fact that story had... Because this chap used to live with him. The fact that story was legit, and also that people knew about it that lived in the house, is just fucking weird.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to know that.
Yeah.
Nobody. And now I've told thousands of people.
He once asked me how many fingers I took.
What?
Have I not told you this?
No.
Yeah, when I was like a new comic, in the but he was like absolute classic bit of internalized sexism and sexual harassment from the circuit. I was doing like a sort of a comedy course, but not really, that he was involved in. So he was like a teacher. I've got to worry, all this is too traceable. Well, it's fine. He's definitely in the wrong here. Yeah, and he was like sort of like, it was a break, and he sat in front of me and was like eating a chocolate bar, looking at me, and was like, I'm an absolute slut for chocolate. And I was like, okay. Bear in mind, I'm like 22, and he is older than me and a teacher on this thing. And he was like, what's your favourite? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And he's like, how do you like Kit Kats? Like, I like a Kit Kat chunky. And he was like, how many fingers do you take? And I was like, I'm just going to go to the toilet. Not like so I can immediately wank. It's like a check. Oh, turns out, both hands.
When I first started out in comedy, the same person, because you don't know, do you? You don't understand, you don't know what level anyone's at, you don't know.
Yeah.
You just think, oh, someone's being kind to me. Oh, great, this is what people do, they must meet up for a drink. So he's like, oh, hey, do you want to go for a drink and chat about comedy? And and I was like, yeah, okay, because I didn't know, did I?
Yeah.
Went for a drink with him this, like, Saturday afternoon, and then I was like, oh, he thinks he's on a date. And I just finished my drink and I'm, thanks very much for that. I'm just going to go meet my boyfriend. See you later.
Oh, God.
And then he was like, what? And it's like, make it clear.
Yeah.
This has happened to me several times from out my life. Ask me on a date. Don't assume that asking to meet up with somebody on the premise of talking about something that you've got to do is a date. It's not.
Yeah, it's like, I'll come over and serve as your boiler, and they turn up with a box of chocolates and a suit on, and you're like, make your intention clear, and I can tell you whether I wanted...
Yeah. What do you want?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, we don't need to cut that out. Fuck 'em.
Anyway,
yeah.
So she's exercising these birds, they start chatting, she goes out on a date. She thinks he's kind of like cool. She also hates her dad. She's got a really bad relationship with her dad. Her dad doesn't like him, and she's like, well, I love him. Just like, fuck you, dad. He had and also he was kind of like cool, and they had like a missing fingertip, which he said it was a stray bullet and that he got when he was walking down on a river patrol in the Mekong Delta. And then he told her dad that, who was a military guy, who was like, well, he can't be that bad then. So he kind of mellowed to him. The weird thing is about this finger, he told Judy from the girl from the military family, that he got it. They were doing something like dropping barrels. Is it like barrels of dynamite off the side, to get fish? They're doing that, and he's like, "Oh, that's how I lost the tip of my finger. This slipped down too quickly and took the finger off. Told someone else it was shot off, and then they looked into the military records. There is no record of him having an injury.
Wow.
Also, the ship he was on was moored for 5 years, so I don't know how the fuck he's getting his. And never, they used to shoot from afar, but they would never like in hand-to-hand combat.
I mean, he's a compulsive liar. That was one of the things that the profiling later on for him put in there, wasn't it? Compulsive liar.
I'm surprised it doesn't come up more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm very surprised.
But maybe it will, because it has yet to go to trial.
It has, yeah.
I mean, this man is completely innocent.
Can you imagine if it's like,
oh my God.
Episode 65, part 1, off please. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So he goes out, and he's like, they do lots of outdoor stuff together, like wildlife-wise, but he's always like a thrill seeker, so he'd like go into areas that's like no trespassing, and he'd go in there like spear frogs, which like was a legal thing to do, shoot vultures. Apparently he'd take her out on this motorbike and like drive really fast, and once he just like veered off the road.
And she's like clinging on to him, and she found out later on that was a path that, bikers who were trying to prove their sort of skill and would go down, and she was
but not with a passenger.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not a passenger who doesn't know anything about bikes.
The phrase is, it seems like he delighted in scaring me, which is really sort of creepy.
And it does get worse, because on one of their trips out on the bike, there was an Alsatian dog that used to jump up and sort of run along and bark at them. Bit of fun, you might think. No, because what happens is, as soon as the dog gets too close, he kicks it and kills it.
Kicks it in the neck.
He kicks it in the neck, breaks its neck, and the poor dog's like at the side of the road. I did an impression of a dead dog then. Visual, sorry about that. Come to a live show, might do it. So he does that, and then she's a bit like, ugh, this is kind of unsettling. Then he takes her on a very romantic date, dove shooting. Let's shoot these lovely peaceful birds, the symbol of peace. Let's shoot them.
And love. You
love,
normally like release doves when you love someone. The fact that he's shooting them and ripping the tits off them.
There's
it's horrible, that.
I watched a documentary about Elton John, I know. And it's very good. But there was one scene, like, he was doing this really big show, and he like planned this big thing where there was loads of pianos, and he's walking down this like grey outfit, and they'd put doves in the pianos, so when he said they were going to open them and they were going to fly out, but all the fucking doves were asleep. So they were in this like nice warm piano, like, oh this is nice, like snuggled up, and then you just see his manager going, wake up, fucking, and they're just like, what a horrible way to be woken up.
Awful. Like, quick, you're now showbiz. Wake up, you're on stage. That's like an anxiety dream you have before Edinburgh.
That is, yeah, horrendous. I don't have that many anxiety dreams about performing.
I had I don't really remember my dreams, as we've talked about, but I had one before my Victim Complex show. Had one like 2 weeks before, where it's that thing where you wake up, your agent's phoning you and she's like, where are you? And it's like the time your show's meant to start, and you start running, and the faster you run, the slower you get. So you have to stop and then start again. Yeah, it's just horrific, like running through treacle.
Horrible dreams, those.
Yeah.
Awful. Now, he takes stuff shooting, as we've said, and she kills one with one shot. Fair play.
He used to teach her sharpshooting.
So she does this. She doesn't like it, though. She's not really into the hunting kind of thing. And the dove, she gets really upset and a bit uncomfortable when it's sort of flapping around dying on the floor. He's not asked. He just goes straight in, rips its chest open and gets the breast meat out of the dove.
He just pulls it out and then drops
Can you imagine, like, being alive 1 second and the next thing, some fucking weird-fingered guy is just ripping your tits out?
Yeah, using his half finger to rip your tits off. It's brutal.
It's so brutal. I mean, I know animals and stuff, I do eat meat, so I can't go on about it too much, but...
I don't.
That is just... I don't know, there's just something about that.
It's very visceral.
Yeah.
I mean, you do eat meat, but you do eat meat from abattoirs, which is a controlled thing where they try and minimise
you think I do, you don't know what I do.
Oh, yeah, you and your black market meat. You're always buying something from the back of a boot, aren't you?
Yeah, there's a butcher's near me, and because there's so many different sort of communities where I live, there's some of the meat they sell, I'm like, oh God, what are you making from that?
Oh, yeah.
Like chicken's feet or
like
pig leg.
But there's quite a lot. I got one of those pushed through the door once that was like, like beef skirt and just things I'd never heard of, and was like goat's brains and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's better because you're eating everything, but I'm also like, can you
please don't?
I had pictures of everything as well. I was like, I don't need to see what tripe looks like.
I can't go in butcher. Have I mentioned this before? I'm sure I have. I can't go in butcher shops.
The smell of blood is horrible.
It just makes me feel physically sick, and I can't. Meat aisles in supermarkets as well.
Really?
Yeah, and
they don't smell.
I can't touch raw meat.
Fishmongers fucking reek. Doesn't matter what you do.
I can't touch raw meat.
Really?
Yeah, I'm really...
Is that why everything you cook's breaded?
Pretty much. That's exactly why. I'm a bit better than I used to be. Like, I can do a stir fry with chicken or whatever, but I can't bear the look of raw meat or the smell or... No.
Oh, I miss it.
The rawer the better.
So his and Bonnie's relationship, after 8 months, he proposes to her. Now, they have a very weird sex life. She's a virgin, but she was like, even then, I was like, knew that our sex life wasn't normal. It was like exhausting and painful. So he had this thing where he would basically like, thought he could hold back ejaculation. So he would like get close or do a little bit is what he said he was doing, and then stop and then come back again. And he'd do like 4 or 5 times. I mean, what he's describing is edging, but with an amuse bouche of jizz. Oh, God. Why have I said that sentence? That's going to be on my fucking gravestone.
Do you know, I thought of it and I didn't say it.
Really?
Yeah, because I was a bit confused as to what an amuse-bouche was.
Oh, God.
I was like, is that the thing? That's definitely the thing. To be honest with you, she said, oh, sex used to go on for like 3 hours. I
Fuck
cannot.
that.
Please don't. I've
Just
got,
do a good... Do you know what? It's like anything else. Don't do it in 3 hours. Do a great job in 20 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, brilliant. We're all working towards the same thing.
God. So
And she said the third, fourth, fifth time would be really, really painful. Now, maybe we should talk about his penis at this point.
Sure.
He had a micro penis, which is one of the reasons that was one of the facts that all the women gave. And in fact, when he goes on to rape women, they talk about how it was kind of a good job that his penis was so small that it would have hurt an awful lot more. But the fact that it's like painful after that long, sorry to get graphic here, but like he's clearly not making her wet, is he? Do you know what I mean? So it'd be like, and apparently his other people have reported that his penis had a really weird texture, was like rough, like sandpaper, which is like, what is he doing with it?
All I can imagine is a walnut whip.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's all I can imagine.
I think it probably had the shape, colour and texture of an acorn, but the other way around, so the smooth bits in him and the rough cups on the outside.
Oh. Like a button mushroom?
Yeah, like a button. No, apparently it was like ridiculously small. Like medically small.
Wow. Medically small. That's saddening, that, isn't it?
But she's still like, he proposes, she says yes. He even wears her like college ring on his little finger.
He also, when they were having sex, she was a Simon and Garfunkel fan, but he used to put on The Doors.
Yes. Yeah.
Psychedelic rock.
Imagine that really loudly as well. Like, that for 3 hours. Fuck
also,
that.
I think people who put music on during sex are weird.
I think so as well.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
I'm just going to pop this on. Ugh,
I think maybe with one of my earlier boyfriends, like...
Because the parents are downstairs.
We'd kiss to an album, yeah. Like, and like your parents are downstairs, so you don't want them to hear you. But no, I can't think of anything worse. I like stoic silence and nothing else. I like to be able to hear the clock tick.
Yeah. I think it's a really strange thing to... I have to say, I bet people have banged with our podcast on in the background.
No.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what? The couples who are listening to this now looking at each other, don't you fucking dare.
Remove yourselves from each other's orifices.
Yeah, don't you dare. Don't you dare get over the edge listening to this. Also, the problem is, if you're listening to this to do that, me going, don't you dare do that, is absolutely what's going to make you spaff your load.
Exactly.
Enjoy your amuse-bouche, mate. So they get... Now, he gives her a ring that she hates.
Yeah. It's very... it's massive. It's a huge... Bigger than his penis, by all accounts. Huge
Big
diamond. And he said he got it in Vietnam. And she said, because she was working in the lab, she'd put, like, the latex gloves on to do things. And it was catching on things all the time.
It was really old-fashioned. It had a really high mount and used to stick up and catch on stuff. And she was like, God, I hated it.
But you can't say.
Yeah, but you can't go, that's awful. But one of the reasons why she accepted the proposal was that it was a big fuck you to her dad, who she hated.
Sometimes on sort of... I mean, there's going to be lots over Christmas, isn't there? People getting engaged. Lack of originality. But sometimes when people post engagement rings, I'm like, oh, God. And I'm not like, budget shaming anybody. Like, fine.
No, some of the worst ones I've seen are expensive.
Yeah, the styles of them. And I really hate those sort of modern shape ones with, like, like it's a circle. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a circular diamond. And do you know what I mean? It looks really simple, but it's really expensive, but it just looks crap. And it's really sort of, you'll know in like 30 years you're going to hate it. It's just not the right...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, where it's not timeless. All the ones I like are really old.
It looks like it should be in a Renee McIntosh display in a Scottish gift shop. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. All the ones I like look like they're like Art Deco.
I suppose I haven't got any... I've got an opinion on everyone else's, but... I just don't know. I mean, to be honest, I'd want to be like Elizabeth Taylor with a massive...
Yeah, me too. I've said to my partner, I was like, my criteria for a ring is I want it to be so big it looks fake, but isn't. Yeah. That's what I want.
I think There's a great Elizabeth Taylor story. I can't remember who told it, but you know that big yellow diamond that she had that was fucking fortunate. I think she went to like visit Richard Burton's village that he grew up in or something. Like spent ages chatting to all the women, and she let them all try the ring on.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's fucking great, that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. You love those two, don't you?
Oh my god, I fucking love Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. I cannot get enough of them. I fucking love them. I genuinely love reading about them, love watching them. I love rereading things about them. I think they're just fucking fascinating.
I think they're maddos.
Oh, they're insane.
Anyway, back to her horrible ring that she hates. Now, she realises, yes, it's pissed her dad off, but she's in a shit situation. Her dad is horrible, by the way, and didn't want her to go to university because he's like, education's wasted on women.
Wow.
So Joe would be like, you need to do this. And she's like, I don't want to do it. And he says, you have to do this because we're engaged. And she was like, oh, this is what this is. It's a power thing. It's you owning me. So they had a big row. They break it off. And she dumps him, basically.
Yeah.
He, as he's leaving, takes the ring and hurls it into, the garden. And then fucks off. Anyway, she says it's like the telltale heart. All she can think about is that fucking ring out there. So they search for it days and days and days and realise he never threw it. He just made it look like he was.
Dramatic piece of shit.
Also, if he's got this ring that from Vietnam, which he clearly hasn't bought a diamond in Vietnam, I think he just stole that from a house and that's why it looks old-fashioned.
Oh my, that's a great theory.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think he just stole it.
I think you're absolutely right there.
Thank you so much. So one day she's not long after this, she's lying in bed.
Well, she sees him after just a few days after this in a psychology class, holding hands with a woman that she'd never seen before.
Yes.
So she's like, "Oh, Joe's moved on."
He's moved on. So then she's in bed a little while later. She's asleep at night. She can hear this loud tapping on the window. Goes over, opens the curtains. He's standing there, and the tapping is a barrel of a gun.
Oh my god! I just assumed it was a raven.
Yeah, it's really Edgar Allan Poe, isn't it?
Hello.
This whole thing is. So she's like, fuck, and he says, get dressed, we're going to Reno and you're marrying me tonight. So she was like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm going to have to ask my dad for a favour. So she's like, Dad, Joe's at the window with a barrel of a gun pointed at me saying I've got to go to Reno and get married.
I think if you're a parent, if you hear your name spoken like this, Mom,
Yeah.
Dad, it's like, what the fuck is wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
What have you done? Who's in the,
No, for me, it's why I do that when I need a favour. Mum, everyone else is going to... It's like when I want something.
I was never... I think if I use that, it'd be... Oh, shit.
Really?
I've done something
Oh, yeah,
wrong.
like I've smashed something.
Mom. In fact, I wanted to do something that everyone else does now. Why can't I just do it? That's what I feel like. Horrible little shit.
So she goes to her dad. Now her dad goes out and manages to sort of talk him down.
Yeah, he does a really...
Which is impressive.
I've just got a really weird message of somebody saying, I can't fit into loads of my trousers. It's just really made me laugh.
Are they pregnant?
No, it's a man. Although it is 2019, guys. No. Sorry. Carry on.
Has he got a boner? What's happening?
You've just overindulged. 'Tis the season.
So, the dad goes out, talks him down, and sends him away. Now, he doesn't report him. That's right. Because he's like, he'll get kicked out of the police, and that's all he wants to do. So they don't report this fucking mad crime.
They don't even tell the rest of her family who are asleep in bed.
Yeah.
Your dad's like, we don't speak of this again. It's done. It's over.
Which, to be honest, could be the headline of all these crimes is we don't speak of this again. Like, women are absolutely collateral in this. Anyway. Now, it sort of all seems unrelated. Bonnie cracks on with her life. But then what happens is in 1978, people start trying to hunt down someone called Bonnie because the East Area rapist is raping a woman, and as he's raping a woman and crying, and about 80% of the victims said he used to cry when he was committing his crimes, he was whispering, I hate you, Bonnie, into her ear. And this is like, he'd been married for 3 years to someone else at this point.
So this is what he does. So Bonnie cracks on with her life. He then, in 1973, I think it's 1973, he starts, this is where he starts the rapes and the murders.
Oh, so he marries Sharon Huddle.
Yeah. He gets, oh God, where's my bloody...
So yeah, 1973, he marries Sharon Huddle. So she's a Sacramento area lawyer. They had a very toxic marriage by all accounts. So he was 27 when they got married. They had 3 daughters. They were born 1981 September, 1986 November. Great year, great month to be born. And 1989, youngest was born in May. So they had these 3 girls. One's a doctor now, one's a college graduate. They have all deleted their social media because everyone is like hounding them, which is fucking disgusting.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And if you think about it, so for example with Bonnie as well, when all this comes out and he's eventually arrested for these crimes, years and years later, this poor woman's just living a life. Got a little blog on the internet, you know.
A travel blog.
Called An Old Broad Abroad.
Love it.
Doing a little travel thing. People track her down and then get her blog and turn it into a book and sell it on Amazon. And it's really, really horrible. Like, she gets a phone call about it from her husband who she split up with. She's living in Italy. And she gets this phone call and she's like, what's that guy you used to go out with? And I bet she was like, oh, what now?
Yeah.
And she says, oh, yeah, Joe. And he goes, he's been arrested for being the Golden State Killer. So obviously she's like, and then she's got to find out all this I hate you, Bonnie stuff. And,
Jesus.
And then there's headlines saying, is this the woman that sent the Golden State Killer on his rampage?
It's fucking irresponsible.
It's not her fucking fault. This is the annoying thing. But less than a year after after Bonnie dumped him, police start getting in Rancho Cordova. I always want to say Rancho Relaxo, like where Madge Simpson goes. They start getting reports of a cat burglar who just stands at women's windows wearing no pants.
Yeah, naked from the waist down.
Donald Duck naked, which is the fucking worst kind of naked, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Although men naked but for socks is quite gross as well.
It's really
worse
weird.
if they have big willies. I think they look ridiculous. Like pendulously swinging around.
Got a really cold willy but really warm feet.
Yeah. Don't know. Yeah, just like when the bell end's cold, like, ugh.
I really don't like being naked at all. I like to be clothed. I love having clothes on. Happy as a sand boy in clothing me.
I used to sleep naked and I don't anymore.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, it depends. When I'm in London, I sleep with clothes on because I share a flat with my brother. I don't need to accidentally, like, leave the door open and him to see my fucking giblets hanging out. Yeah, but then back at home, it's a mix, really. Depends on the temperature.
I know I like to have at least a t-shirt and a pair of khakis on.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I like pyjamas as well.
I do. Well, that's the only thing I wear is because I like pyjamas.
They're nice, aren't they?
They're lovely. Love
nice.
treating myself to a pair of TK Maxx. Yes, please.
I've got some Mary Poppins ones.
Really?
Very not like me. They've got the little penguins dancing on them.
Oh, great.
Just not my sort of thing. I had them on at my mum's house the other week and she went, wow, really? I was like, yeah, I know.
There's really good Jungle Book ones in Cath Kitson. I'll probably try and hoover up in the sale.
Oh, the best thing about this time of year is you go in a shop and I turn into my mother. So any time we went shopping over Christmas, she'd go, be £3 after Christmas, that. That'll be £1 on Christmas Eve. That'll be in the sale come January. And I very rarely buy anything sort of full price at Christmas because I can just hear my mum's voice in my head going, be £1 after Christmas.
Yeah, I can't wait. Absolutely love a January sale. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yeah, so he marries Sharon and they have the children together. Now, they have a very weird... The neighbours describe their relationship as toxic and they used to have epic arguments. So apparently it was quite an unstable household. More will come out about this at the trial, I imagine.
Yeah.
But they think he was minimum emotionally abusive to his wife.
It used to have... Neighbours used to say he had outbursts of anger that they could hear through the walls.
They lived in separate rooms.
Yeah, they had separate bedrooms.
Which is one of the reasons why he could go away and do these crimes and she would never know because...
Wow. She just assumed he was asleep.
Yeah, of course.
There's a bit where, was it one of the neighbours said that he used to just walk round in circles in the garden?
It was kids. Kids were like, they wouldn't go over and play with the girls because they were like, your dad's weird. And he said, they said avoid playing because... he had this anger issue, and one of them said he'd just be yelling at nothing in the backyard, pacing in circles, which actually sounds exactly like my father.
I mean, to be fair, it's his house.
Yeah, it's his house. He can do what he wants.
Naked
from the waist down. Yeah.
Screaming in circles.
And they separated in 1991. She's a divorce lawyer, incidentally, but they didn't get divorced. They were only estranged.
Yeah, so they end up.
And then it all came out.
I feel when something like this happens, and
I like
the
this
woman
theory.
doesn't know, I 100% feel you shouldn't have to go through divorce proceedings. I think your marriage should be immediately annulled because you've been lied to, and the other way around, if it's a man and a woman, I feel like it should be automatically annulled because you've deceived that person.
It's like gross misconduct in a marriage, isn't it?
It should be like, that's it, it's annulled, that marriage is gone.
Yeah. So about 5 months after they get married...
But I guess then you want to divide property up and stuff like that, don't you?
Yeah, but that would still go ahead, I reckon.
God, you'd get the archive.
Imagine that, a really spiteful divorce where he's like, I'm having that, that's all I want.
Yeah, that is
Hit her where it hurts.
I want 45% of the archive. I'm splitting the archive up.
So 5 months after they get married, the Visalia Ransacker starts the crimes. Now, these are described as fetish burglary. So he'd break into houses while people were out, was really organised. He'd do things like put bottles of perfume on the door handles. So if they came home early and, move the door handle, the bottle would smash and give him like an alarm to get out. He would always make sure there was at least one window and one door open, and he had a quick exit wherever he was in the house. So he's really organised, but he would do weird things, like it wasn't for money. So he'd do things like scatter the underwear down the hallway, or he would pile it all up, and loads of them actually were around the area that he went to college. One of them was a college professor as well. He would squirt like ketchup and what's the other one?
Mayonnaise?
No.
Mustard
around the kitchen. So they thought kids were doing it. So there's a weird mix of like...
Oh, Ronald McFucking Donald.
Yeah, because it was like juvenile. But then he would take things, but stuff you wouldn't notice. So like 6 months later, they'd notice, hold on, this photo album is missing a photo, and it would always be with the girl from the house in. Like the little girl, usually.
Oh, God, he's so sinister.
Yeah, and he'd take like single earrings, coins, but nothing that ever really amounted to much.
Just like tokens of...
Yeah, exactly. He'd eat food while he was there, or like that's a common thing in his crimes. He makes himself some food. Fucking junk food Joey's back again. That's how you stop yourself being raped. Don't keep burgers in the house.
Unbelievable.
Awful, man.
It's... As it progresses and you listen to the things that he's done, the fact that he stops sometimes, goes through the fridge and has something to eat is pretty gross, isn't it?
Yeah, and then in 1973, there's an escalation because he starts doing what's known as hot prowling. So there's loads of peeping toms at the time, so it was quite like some of the crimes they weren't sure were him. Also, there was in Rancho Cordova at the time, Visalia, sorry. It was probably the same place.
Rancho Relaxo,
let's just say. There was a guy who was also a peeping Tom who apparently was described as looking like he had like learning difficulties. So sometimes they wouldn't know who was who because I think they both had like light hair from the descriptions. But the fucking, what's it called? E-fit of him is like exactly him, isn't it?
I think one of the E-fits actually looks like him now as well. I think you can tell that that's him. It's pretty good.
But this, because he didn't live in that area, it went out in the paper. But then, because, you don't have the internet then, like, that goes out, and if you don't see the paper that day, you don't see what he looks like. And because it was, like, 17 miles away, but, like, just a separate place.
Round the corner, yet miles away.
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
Can we talk about that?
Have we not talked about it before?
I just, I feel like it's come back into my life from it's been remembered, and I just find it so funny.
I think we've spoken about this fucking hat before. My partner bought a terracotta wool baseball cap.
Like a trucker's cap type thing.
No, like a normal baseball cap.
Yeah.
Yeah, not with any like plastic bits on the side. It almost looks like cashmere wool, and on it, embroidered in white, are the words, "around the corner, yet miles away." Now, we've Googled it, no idea what it's a reflection of.
I think it's from a poem that isn't like a
well-known poem.
Yeah, a well-known
But I don't think we've been able to find what it's from. But he kept... So we see this in a cancer research in Stockport, and he's like, look at that. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I really like it. And I was like, okay. I was like, with that mad, like, prose on it. And he's like, yeah. So we walk around Stockport, and the whole time he's going, should have got that hat. And I was like, just go back and get it. It was like £2. And he's like, no, probably gone now. Probably someone else has bought it. And I was like, no one's bought the hat. And then he's like, I'll just... No. It'll be gone now. I'll be a bit. And then so he like runs back, like runs into the cancer. You, sir, what day is this? Do you still have the hat in the window?
Yes, it's been here for 6 months, sir.
So yeah, he bought it, and then went through a stage of he'd be in the car wearing it. Like he'd pick me up, and he'd be wearing it. Anyway, I don't know how you found out about it.
It's when we were in America, you just mentioned it. And I, for some reason, got obsessed with it.
And then when he came to the live shows...
What does it say?
Yeah.
And I also love the story of him going, what about that hat, eh? That hat was rid of something. Oh, I should have got that hat. I'm going back for the hat. I'm going back in to get it. And then you reminded me about it. And honest to God, I think about that it just makes me
The other
laugh.
day, I told you this, didn't I? We were in bed together having a nap. We're like, like spoons.
Not me and you.
No, my partner and I. He's got his arms around me. He kisses like my neck and then whispers in my ear, around the corner, you're miles away. And I was like, oh, that's lovely. And then I remembered what it was, and I was like, get off me, you fucking pig.
I honestly think it's one of the funniest things. You know why it's funny? It's because I can imagine him going...
Yeah.
The bit that's funny is him going, hey, look at that hat. Yeah, right. That hat was weird, wasn't it? God, that hat. We should have bought that hat. I'm going back for the hat. And then
What a journey.
A journey.
Honestly.
The hat was just round the
He'd
corner.
be like
yet miles
cooking in the
away.
kitchen in like tracksuit bottoms, no top and the hat on.
It's absolutely hilarious.
I'll put a picture of the hat on social media.
Oh my God. If anyone finds it as funny, it's just that around the corner yet miles away. I don't understand why it exists.
And now he won't wear it, but he's like, I wish I could wear my hat. Because he thinks it looks too much like a MAGA hat.
I wish I could wear mine.
He's like, I guess it'll have to be my in-the-house hat. I was like, you don't need an in-the-house hat.
I just find the entire thing so funny. Look at that hat. Oh. It's funny, that hat, isn't it? We should have got that hat. I'm going back for the hat. Why don't you go and get it? Oh no, it's probably gone now. It's probably gone. It's just plot. Right, anyway. Don't set me off about it because I just find it all so funny.
You brought it up. I didn't fucking want to bring it back into my life. So they do a composite of him and it looks so much like him, but if it's distributed to the wrong area, then obviously you're not going to find if he's smart enough to know that there's not loads of, cross-town, cross-state communication, and also, it's the 70s, so how would you really do that? So...
In discos?
In discos, of course, in flares, yeah. So he starts this... Are those nightclubs called Flares still going?
Oh my God, I think there's one in Liverpool.
There's one in Wigan. I used to go to the one in Liverpool.
The one in Liverpool, I had... me and Paul McCaffrey went there. It was fucking horrendous, but it was the only place open.
Yeah.
And we just ended up in there, and then we found an indie nightclub, and we were like, yay, in our element. But yeah, it's still open, but Flares was fucking... We used to be one in central Manchester. I never went in. Just a bit naff, innit?
Really naff, yeah.
Really naff. I just imagine really bad, deep-fried things in breadcrumbs as well for nibbles.
Yeah, no, that's bang on the money. So he starts this hot prowling, which is being in the house when the family are there, but like creeping around in the dark.
Oh, it's absolutely awful, this.
Yeah.
I honestly... It makes me feel sick.
And, and like women wake up with him in there, like, like in the room and stuff. He'd wear a ski mask. And then he commits his first murder in 1975.
Well, he'd also started killing dogs as well.
Oh,
so there was a sort of a dog that was found under the family bed, and it had been disemboweled, and its head had been smashed in.
Well, here's what happened: is they called the police and said there's someone prowling outside. So the police come over, search, and they're like, no one's here. They leave, and then dispatch is like, he's there, and they come back and they go, he jumped off the roof and ran away, like. So as the guy is like looking around for him, then comes back and sees this log covered in blood and guts and things. And then I was like, oh fuck. And then goes into the house, and under one of the beds is a poodle that's been disemboweled.
Ugh.
And he said like, oh, okay, he means business. They knew it was this guy.
That dog was so well known though, it made the front page of the local paper.
I feel like everything makes the front page of the local paper. They're like, woman farts in supermarket.
Hey, if that hat, and if he'd have bought that hat in that town, it would have been Man Buy's hat. Oh, what a story. Fucking really makes me laugh. So yeah, I mean, it's very well known. It must be a celebrity neighbourhood dog.
Well, you know, there are dogs and people that are well known in towns.
Yeah.
It's just one of those, isn't it?
There was one that used to live near me, a big white, sort of, wasn't a stray dog, it had a family and a home, but it was called Polanski.
What, like the rapist?
After Roman Polanski.
Jesus.
But you used to wander around
dark,
and I was like,
innit?
oh, there's Polanski. And it used to be like, going about his business. A bit like the actual Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
Wandering around without a care in the world.
Yeah, going about his business with no repercussions. And yeah, so then we get to the first murder, right?
Yes. So
we're going to do those, I mean, because this is over an hour already.
Oh.
We'll do the murders as a separate podcast.
crikey. Yeah. So there we go. He would actually, what he used to do as well, he would be frequently call the houses of potential victims to work out what their routine was. So he'd ring up and be like, oh, are they in? Oh, they're always out at this time.
Is he the one who used to pretend to be French?
Oh, I don't know.
He like phoned up a car dealer. Maybe this is another serial killer. But I've got this memory of someone phoning up a car dealership with like a French accent. And was like, "Hello, is Brenda in today?" And they were like, "No, she doesn't work Thursdays. But she works late on Fridays." And he's like, "Okay, tell her it is Claude, and I will buy the car on Friday." It was something like that.
I want this one.
Yeah, but maybe it's another serial killer I'm confusing it with. There's a lot of them up there knocking around in my head.
The similarities with BTK as well in this.
Fucking so much.
So similar.
Also, like, this comes at a really interesting time in that, like, Ted Bundy hasn't been caught yet. And Ted Bundy was the first serial killer that people understood that this is a thing that happens. So when it's happening, people don't understand that that's a thing that exists. And similar with, like, we'll talk about the rapes in the next episode. Something to look forward to, innit? Merry Christmas! Yeah, that people... The rape culture of, like, people talking about it or coming forward about it is so non-existent that it sort of aids him getting away with so much stuff.
Mm-hmm. So that's part one.
That is part one
The
of
Golden
the
State Killer.
Golden State Killer. Joseph DeAngelo, who may be innocent.
Imagine if they go, actually, this has all been
A massive stitch up. And Epstein did kill himself. Anything else?
Well, just thank you for coming to the live shows.
Oh, yeah, fuck me, they were great.
They were great, yeah, I had a really good time.
Have we
Thoroughly
thanked them
enjoyed it.
since? I think we have.
I think we might have done. We did the last ones the other week. So.
Yeah.
Also, what else? We're on tour.
Oh, yeah.
Not together, individually.
Individually.
Where am I? Individually. It's like Victoria would say, individually. Where am I? Oh, it's in March. Birmingham, Bristol. I've got to sort myself out. Birmingham, Bristol, Glasgow, Newcastle. And another one I can't remember. But please come.
I'm on tour March, April, May. It's all on sale now. Dates in Wales, dates in Scotland, all over the north, dates down south, some places I've never been before. Crawley Heath, it's actually selling. Guildford.
Cradley Heath.
Crawley Heath.
Crawley Heath.
Yeah, I don't know where it is. Guildford is selling. Swindon, not a bean. Exeter, not fans of me. So, yeah, there's a few dates that are nearly sold out, which is amazing. Yes, I would love for you to come and see this new show. I think there's a tiny bit about serial killers in it, but I'm not sure yet. It's not finished. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Yeah, and thank you very much. And have a nice Christmas. Enjoy yourself.
Merry Christmas.